My name's Adam Manaka and I'm the Financial Controller for Hi-Tech Oils. With our national capacity, we can now service Australian companies nationwide. Of late, we have now expanded into the New Zealand market. Here at Hi-Tech Oils, we receive premium base oils and premium additive packs. Together, with our highly trained staff, we manufacture over 500 premium quality products. Hi-Tech Oils is Australian made and Australian owned.
Hello everybody and welcome to the show. This is round number 3 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships here at beautiful Coffs Harbour in New South Wales. We saw some fantastic racing at round number 2 down in Bowen. Now we move down the coast a little bit into the banana capital of Australia. Plenty of sun, sand and surf greets our races here this weekend, and conditions are looking absolutely diabolical out there with a big ocean swell. Point standings after round number 2 at Bowen, and on top of the table in the Supercat Extreme categories, Maritimo Australia. Then it's back to the 222 Offshore, the Mega Bulk Fuels, Maritimo Racing, and rounding out the field, Team Australia 2. In the Supercat Outboard category, the Phantom, the little purple rocket ship. On top of the table there, back to Mancini Racing, the 88 Power Zone, and of course the SUV Simrad rounding the field there in the Australia 1 trophy. On top of the table is the 222 Offshore, back to Maritimo Australia, and then the Mega Fuels with the Fryer Boys. Round number 3 now coming up here at Coffs Harbour, and we've got some treacherous conditions out there with a nice ocean swell running. We had plenty of action at round number 2 in Bowen, and we caught up with some of the teams to see their take on what went on. What's going on here? Oh my goodness, Team Australia 2. Brett Lerman and Carl, well, this boat is absolutely on fire. They need to get out of this boat straight away as they get the hatches open. This is a disaster for Team Australia 2.
Well, first things first is let's save this boat. So a little bit of training, I guess, kicks in. First thing was I pulled the fire extinguishers, pulled all the fuel shut-offs, just turned off all the electrics, you know, just make sure that there's nothing else that can arc up another fire. And then, you know, it was just a matter of trying to get out, but unfortunately the wind was against me, and as you probably saw, the hatch kept closing on me, but no, we both got out safe, and the next priority was just try and get some water into the boat and cool it down and extinguish the fire.
Season so far has been just consistent, I suppose you'd say. We're not happy with where we're finishing, but that's just the nature of what we're driving at the moment. Development boat, just looking after the drives for Tommy in the future. So yeah, we're struggling a bit actually. The boat wasn't sort of really developed for what we're doing with it. It was actually originally a Class 1 boat, and we've changed it to operate the drives for our Key West campaign. And you know, we've learnt from it though. I mean, the thing is, we've got to look at the big picture, and we race overseas as well. So
certainly had boat speed when the boat's been running like it should. So just had a few carburetor issues, which we seem to be on top of now. So you know, conditions here at Coffs are pretty typical Coffs conditions yesterday. You know, with the swells and the wind we had. So, but seems to have calmed off today. So you know, we'll have the setup in. Hoping that it's right, and see how we go.
Yeah, a little bit different. I think the water was just too calm. You know, these guys are 180-degree turns as well, which our boat struggles a little bit with turning. So yeah, a bit choppier water. So yeah, we're looking for that this weekend for sure. Yeah, got Infant's Friend on board this year, which is great. You know, we've taken on a major sponsor, and then we've got Infant's Friend come on board as well. So yeah, really good to have Neil McPhillips and his team on board. Yeah, happy to support locals. They're based in near Harvey Bay there, so yeah, last round there being this year, so it's going to be a big one for him and a big one for us, hopefully.
This week we got given by our lovely sponsor, Hunter Prestige, a Range Rover SBR, and it has about a bit over 400 kilowatts. So normally at a race weekend we'd had the mini moat, which hangs out on the top of the transporter, and we worked out it's got about 60 kilowatts. It's not exactly a powerhouse, but then it's 40-year-old. So we go from 60 kilowatts on the moat, 400 odd in the Range Rover, which is quite pleasant to drive, to the boat, which is about 1,200 kilowatts.
First round was at Mackay, where we Did all right, I reckon, for effectively a new boat. So we were very happy to come away with a first in pole position, second in race 1 and a win in race 2. So we were very happy. Bowen just wasn't a good weekend for us. We really struggled for pace on the dead flat water. The big Doug Wright just didn't get any assistance from the water at all. So we got 2 third places and a third in pole, so we really struggled.
Haven't got a great lot of changes, maybe a little bit more weight forward in the boat, and obviously we'll be using our ballast tank on and off in and out of the harbour today quite a bit. And but prop wise, we've only got one decent set of propellers we're using this year, so the same propellers.
Bowen was a fantastic weekend for us. Ideal conditions for our little Supercat and our little setup. Carried a lot of speed and had a great battle with the Phantom. Unfortunately couldn't get out on top, but we had a great weekend. Yeah, Championship's looking healthy at the moment. We're still fighting to stay in contention, sitting third at the moment. 30 points between us and the next boat, but hopefully we can close it up a bit this weekend.
Me and my brother raced a boat called the Colonel down in Melbourne. Did the offshore series up and down the north coast in that for a few years, and then got out of it and went ski racing for a little bit, and then getting back in the boat with Anthony now. So yeah, hopefully be a good day.
So pole position, shootout, and as always, very interesting, very exciting, quite rough conditions greeted the competitors for the shootout here this year at Coffs Harbour, and we've seen this so often. You can actually see from that high shot the big ocean swell rolling in there. Phantom, they ran into third spot, probably a little bit lumpy for the little rocket ship with Ian Harris and Mickey Walker there. Did a great job all the same. Saracen, first time out for these guys in the new season, and in the third race here in Saracen, all the way up from Melbourne into second place, did a great job. This boat here, they had an absolutely dogged weekend at Bowen and very, very keen to get up and going again. It is Brent Price and Simon Isherwood in the Mancini Cosmetics, and they got the job done very, very nicely, winning the Supercat Outboard shootout. In the third spot in the Supercat Extreme, it was Darren Nicholson and Peter Muddy McGrath in the Newcastle 222 machine, and they were pretty happy with their run there. Maritimo Racing was the boat to put itself up into P2, and that was a great effort there for the boys there, the Willerton boys, Ross and Andrew Willerton, and then of course it was Steve Jellick and Tom Barry-Cotter putting the Maritimo 12 up into P1 in the shootout here for Saturday. So, race number one of 2 races here at Coffs Harbour. Conditions have settled down quite a bit from yesterday's really treacherous conditions in the shootout. And we go on board with the Mega Fuels here with Brendan and Chris Fryer. And these guys didn't do as well as they would have liked to yesterday in the shootout. They really want to try and make up some ground, and this smoother water, I'm not really sure that it's going to suit them that much. We are pulling up with the start boat now, and it looks as though the flag has dropped, and Tom Barry-Cotter and Steve Jellick pull away and get a good start. But the boys that have got a cracking start is the Friars in the Mega Fuels entry. The new livery on the boat this season and this round, in fact, brand new colours for this round here at Coffs Harbour, looking absolutely beautiful, and it looks as though they are going to lead the charge out of the harbour here at Coffs, but they've got a hard charging Darren Nicholson and Peter McGrath on their outside in the 222 Newcastle machine, and this is where we start to head out into the ocean swell. You can see it looks a lot smoother than what we saw yesterday in the shootout, but you've still got that big flowing ocean swell. It's certainly going to produce some tricky conditions for these guys as they come through. You can see Darren Nicholson, boat owner there on the steering, and Peter Muddy McGrath, the throttle man on your left of screen, and it looks as though they've got the Maritimo 12 just on their inside there. So basically a sausage style course that we're running here this weekend. So literally in and out of the harbour. You can see they've run that port turn. It's literally a U-turn, and now you can see back into the harbour. Beautiful camera shots coming from our team now, and you can see now that it is the Maritimo 12 out in front. So Tom Barry-Cotter and Stevie Jellick there as they tip hard down into this port turn. You've got the 222 right in behind them there. So this is a really hard and fast turn. Now, we have seen boats spin out in this bottom corner here because it is so tight. Look at the rooster tail coming off these drives as they get the acceleration down, and now we head back out into the ocean swell. So a really short technical little track here, and these guys have to be right on their game. Keep your eye on Tom Barry-Cotter on the wheel there, and also on Steve Jellick on his right hand. He'll be working those throttles over time. The 88 machine, the Power Zone, the newly livered, all back to their old colours now, with Michael and Griff Ethel there in the 88 machine, and they're doing a great job. And this is a good little battle going on between them. You can see the Mancini Cosmetics just leading by about 3 or 4 boat lengths at the moment, with Brent Price and Simon Isherwood, and then on the outside of them is Mick Walker and Ian Harris in the Phantom. So these are the two little 25, 26 foot shifty catamarans. These guys are probably pretty happy that it's smoothed off a little bit here today as opposed to yesterday, and they are certainly giving the Mancini some hurry up. The interesting part about that battle is, where's the Saracen? There they are in the back of your screen at the moment. So Saracen have been blown away at the start. This is really interesting there. So Matty Kelly and Anthony Defina have got a lot of work in front of them to try and bridge the gap. This is their first time out, and they've got to get going. Lead boat now, Maritimo 12. They tip down into the port turn at the bottom end of this beautiful Coffs Harbour course. And of course, major sponsor here this weekend is the CEX Group, and we do thank them very much for their support. They certainly do a great job in making these races happen here at mighty Coffs Harbour. I might go and get myself a banana real soon. Nicholson and McGrath, 222 offshore as they tip down. You can see now they just haven't quite got the pace to try and go with this Maritimo 12 boat at the moment. These guys running the Johnny Barbagallo race engines. This boat has been the picture of reliability. Here's the boat that's just come back from the big fire that we saw a little bit earlier on, and this is Carl Wall and Brett Lerman doing it for Lockie out there at the moment, the Team Australia too. Had a chat with the guys a little bit earlier on, and they are just going to suss this boat out, just get a feel for it now. They haven't really run in these big flowing ocean swells. They certainly ran at round number 1 in some quite sloppy conditions, but this is totally different conditions again. So you can see Lerman there on the right-hand side, of course, the owner of Lerman Power Sports. He has 3 international powerboat racing teams to his name. He's a very, very busy man. Carl Wall doing the hard work on the throttles at the moment in these big swells. The Mega Fuels now as they tip through the port turn at the top end of the course now, out in this big flowing ocean swell, and the guy's doing a great job. This is the battle for the lead in the 600 horsepower, the Supercat Outboard category, and we are on board now. The beautiful Doug Wright machine. This is Brent Price and Simon Isherwood. We've got the Phantom just on the outside of them. So the little boat, these guys would have thought they may have had a little bit of an advantage over the smaller boats in the bigger conditions here at Coffs Harbour, but at the moment, this smoother flowing swell is really, well, it's obviously suiting the Doug Wright of Isherwood and Price, but the Phantom giving him some real hurry up, and so too is the 88 Power Zone with Michael and Griff Ethel. That's a great 3-way battle going on here at Coffs Harbour at the moment for round number 3 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships. Big thank you to Destination New South Wales. So many beautiful places in New South Wales to visit. Coffs Harbour just one of them, but we are absolutely enjoying it and loving the weather out here at the moment. Have a look how close these guys are going to the seawall. Andrew and Ross Willerton, they were pretty happy yesterday, still unhappy with the handling of this particular boat. They've really been struggling with it. They've got a new boat coming, and you know, they've really putting a lot of work into that boat to try and get it sorted out. However, the rough conditions yesterday did suit them. It probably levelled the field a little bit. Today it smoothed off a little bit, and they're back into struggle town again. Look at this battle now, and this is a battle of the brave now as they come out into the ocean swells here. We are on board with Mickey Walker and Ian Harris, the beautiful purple rocket ship, the Phantom. We saw them do so well. Look at the boat out of the water into the air, and plenty of wheel work going on there from Harris there as they go down the back chute. We go back on board now with the Mancini Racing, and this is where the bigger boat really starts to come into its own. So you're seeing the little boat, the little Phantom machine, just running there into the wash of, oh, they've gone over! They've tipped the boat in, they've hooked and shined. Unbelievable, Walker and Harris, they have gone in. Oh, have a look at Maritimo here. I hope they don't hit Saracen. Oh, that was tight as well. As the red flag comes out, Saracen pulls up. Maritimo nearly ran him over. Red flag has come out, and that is absolutely unbelievable. The little rocket ship that's doing so well in the championship. Let's hope the boys are okay. This boat doesn't actually run a tunnel hatch, so the guys do have to exit out from underneath the boat. You can see no hatch in the bottom of that boat there. We're getting word that the divers are going to them. Let's go back now to the CEX Group replay. and we see the boat as it just hooks in, it throws its right-hand chine in, and just the momentum of the boat hooks up and around it goes. Mancini boys probably didn't even know it happened. It was just in the spray of their wash in. Now we go on board, so let's have a look at it from this angle. We see the guys come in. They've obviously tried to sneak up the inside of Mancini. They go into their wash there, get a little bit of a hose off, bang, opposite lock goes on, but it's too late. Boat goes over. And a few interesting words coming from Ian Harris there. I think he wouldn't swear, I wouldn't think, Aaron. He's a very, very nice man. But the good news is they are okay, as you can see there, getting themselves unstrapped. Let's hope they can get out of the hatch there and swim their way out. I'm sure they will. These boats, as we say, very, very safe indeed. So red flag you can see flying there. That is race called. Obviously safety is absolutely paramount. And there you go. You can see the boys sitting in the tunnel of the boat. So they're okay. Very, very sad news though for Team Phantom. We'll take a short break while we get this mess cleaned up and see you soon. Welcome back to round number 3 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships for High-Tech Oils, and we are back for a restart after unfortunately having the rollover with the Phantom in the Supercat Outboard category. Mick Walker and Ian Harris, they are okay. That's great news, but unfortunately that boat will not race again today. So we restart this race, and it'll be a shortened version of this particular race, and the flag has dropped. Mr. Gibbs has let them go, and it is Maritimo and Triple Two that get the best of the starts. Maritimo 12, that is, of course, with Tom Barry Cotter and Stevie Jellick. Now we go on board with the two young guns, Brendan and Chris Fryer, in the Megabulk Fuels entry, looking absolutely beautiful, and these guys enjoying these swells out here today, trying not to bust this boat up too much as they get hammered around. And you can throw a blanket over them as they go up through turn number 1. On board now with Team Australia 2. And you can see Brett Lerman on the wheel there, just dialing in a little bit of opposite lock, getting a little bit of a slide there. Carl Wall pushing hard, and you can see the rev limiters, the two orange lights in front of Carl on your left of screen there. The limiters just coming on just occasionally as they leap off the backs of these big flowing Coffs Harbour swells. Big thank you to the CEX group and of course Destination New South Wales, fabulous sponsors here this weekend. Coffs Harbour City Council, of course, also put a lot of work into making these events happen, so we have to thank those guys as we go on board now with the Megabulk Fuels, Brendan and Chris Fryer. They've had a pretty tough weekend so far. They just haven't quite shown the pace that we've seen from those guys. It is probably the smallest boat in this field of Supercat Extremes with the same horsepower, so in theory they should be super quick, but I think these swells are starting to sort them out a little bit, and as we said, this boat getting a little bit older, particularly in hull technology compared to some of the newer boats, but they're pushing on and they're in the pack at the moment. That's the good news. We go to the front of the pack now. Now keep an eye on Steve Jellick and his right hand there. If you can see that, just working hard on the throttle. So basically, oh, big fly there. Oh, they're taking some huge hits, but you can see Steve having to come off the throttle, and as the propellers break free of the water, and then back on the throttle to make sure the boat doesn't trip itself up and duff its nose in. Here's another interesting battle that's going on, and we just haven't seen any pace at all out of this particular boat here. It is Saracen, Anthony DeFina and Matt Kelly, and it's great to have Matt back into offshore racing. Raced very long time ago, back in the days when his family owned the Colonel race boat, and now it's fantastic to have him back here and actually steering this particular Saracen boat. Anthony DeFina on throttles, but those guys, I spoke to them in the pits, they are having problems with water pressure, and the boat is going into what we call limp mode. So the engines are going into a safe mode and trying to shut themselves down because they are seeing a lack of water pressure. So they're really battling on the exit of the turns. So Michael and Griffith Al now, we've got Team 88 Power Zone. They are having this really good battle. This has become really interesting because the Saracen boat has a little bit of pace on this boat, but the Saracen is having problems in the corners. As we said, those engines shutting down. So they're actually coming good, catching the 88 power zone and then having to go through these corners, having that water pressure issue, and then losing ground to the 88 power zone machine again. So they are really battling at the moment. Mancini Cosmetics, they are out in front at the moment of the Supercat outboard category. You can actually see the black patch on the port rear quarter of that boat, or the left-hand rear quarter of that boat. That is still the battle scar damage from Mackay, where the Team Navy or Mega Bulk Fuels boat actually had a little bit of a love tap with them. They've fiberglassed it up, they've taped it up, and they're back out and racing at the moment. They're back out and winning. Maritimo Australia now back on board. Tom Barry-Cotter and Steve Jellick, and they're doing a nice job, having a pretty comfortable run now, not being challenged too hard by the rest of the field. What they need to do is try and keep this tight. You can see they're coming back into the harbour now, and I tell you what, Coffs Harbour, if you haven't been here, ladies and gentlemen, get your backside down here, because it is an absolutely magnificent part of the world. Have a look at that. You don't get a better racetrack than that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care where you are in the world. This is absolutely beautiful. As we track now with Brendan and Chris Fryer, the Mega Fuels still struggling a little bit for pace this weekend, which is surprising. These guys running the Johnny Barbagallo race engines as well. They've been incredibly reliable, but just lacking that little bit of top end. In fact, the Maritimo team looking like trying to put a lap on these guys at the moment as they come down through the bottom of the turn. So back out into the ocean swell. This is a really, and as I said before, it's quite a technical and an interesting track. We have the boys coming out of the harbour. The harbour's quite smooth, but it still does have that offshore swell. You can see the swells running through there now. It's not big enough to really slow the boats down, but it is big enough to give them some good air and really keep the throttle men on their job. You can see the top turn there. So it's basically a sausage-style course that we are running here, with just basically effectively two 90-degree turns, one at each end of the course. And you can see the Fryer boys just having a conversation there as well. You can see they're running the neck braces as well. This is the sort of pounding that these guys cop in these boats. As we go to the high-tech oils replay there and have a look at the big swells, the 222 just jumping beautifully there, and that's Peter Muddy McGrath. He has got that boat absolutely trimmed to perfection. That's what it's all about. Throttleman doesn't only just control the throttles in these boats, he's controlling the trim as well. So he's trimming the drives up and down, and that's what gives the boat the attitude when it jumps off the waves. You don't want the boat to be what we call nosy. You don't want the nose to fly up in the air and for the boat to land on its back. That's really hard on the gear, and it also slows you down, and it can get quite ugly. You can even, if you do it big enough, you can trip it up and stuff the nose of the boat in. So when you leap off these swells, which they're about to start doing now, you can see the rock wall there on the starboard side or the right-hand side, and you can see things start to really light up now as they go out into that swell, and the throttle man really having to work. Darren Nicholson having to flick the boat off the tops of those swells and keep the boat running straight. If he doesn't flick it properly, it'll land on its side, and it can get very, very nasty from there. Tracking now with the Saracen. This is a Defina designed catamaran. It operates out of Melbourne in Victoria, and very, very good operators, but unfortunately we know that they have a water pressure issue in this boat at the moment. It's running the 3.2 litre Mercury Stroker engines, the Optimax engines on this boat, and Matty Kelly working very, very hard on the wheel there as you see him just tipping that boat in. Power hydraulic steering on these boats, and Defina there. This is quite frustrating for the guys at the moment, because you can see them talking, the boat's not up and going the way they want it to be going. What happens too, when the boat's not going as fast as you want it to go, it doesn't jump off the tops of the waves and skip across the tops of the waves. If you're going slow, you actually get beaten up more than if you're going faster, believe it or not. So they're probably copping a real hiding in that boat and being very, very frustrated at the moment. I can tell you what, they won't like seeing that pink boat out in front, because although they're friends on the bank, they are arch enemies out on the water. Tracking on board now with Tom Barry-Cotter and Steve Jellick in the Maritimo 12. They're having a nice ride out here at the moment. They're just doing it very, very nicely. In fact, I'd say the gauges would be playing a fairly major factor in their concentration at the moment, because they would be just listening for every little rattle, every little vibration. They know they've got another race that they need to get completed as well. A little bit of discussion going on between the two boys here as well, probably just working out where they are and where they need to be as they come down into the harbour. You can see the conditions much, much smoother in the harbour. You can see that they trim the drives up and accelerate away. But don't worry about that now, because the checkered flag comes out, and Tom Barry-Cotter and Stevie Jellick, he gets on the radio. He says, yes, we've done it, team. We're going to bring her in and we're going to get her ready to go for race number 2. And Tommy there as well, just getting the intercom sorted out in the boat. 222, they come through in for second place. So I reckon that Darren Nicholson and Peter McGrath are going to be just quietly happy with that one. This boat has just been getting stronger and stronger every race it goes out, and they've been applying more and more pressure to Team Maritimo with every race. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Great battle to the line here, and I tell you what, this is final corner stuff. The Mega Fuels trying to get up the inside of the Team Australia 2, and are they going to get there? It's a run to the line, and it looks as though Team Australia 2 are just going to sneak it through as they look across to their port side, and they come in for third place. Brett Lerman and Carl Wall, they're happy with that. And, wow, they really had the pressure applied to them there. So it was Maritimo Australia taking the win back to the 222 Offshore. Team Australia 2, Megabulk Fuels and Maritimo Racing. And for High Tech Oils in the Supercat Outboard category, Mancini Cosmetics Racing taking the win there. Back to the Saracen, Team 88 Power Zone, and unfortunate DNF there for the Phantom.
Yeah, so the first start didn't exactly go according to plan. You know, we did get jumped off the start there, so Newcastle and Megabulk Fuels, they got out in front of us, but we just managed to pull them in before the first corner, and we were on the inside, so we could get our lane around the inside and come out of the first corner in first. So a shame to see the Phantom go over, but like I said, it upset our rhythm a bit, and you have to do the restart. But we managed to get a better restart.
Had some big air time. Muddy says he's taken shorter helicopter flights and some of that, but all in all it was good. Both stayed together and we're getting better.
Yeah, great result. We've had a long, arduous trip since our last round, as you know. We had a fire, and look, it's a great compliment to the team to get third place in a brand new boat, third round, new team. Carl Wall and the boys, Dion, back at work. They've been working 12-hour days since the event. They finished it on Friday morning, and we put it in the water on Saturday for the first time. And to get a third for those guys, it was a really, really good result.
Well, it was a fantastic day for us. It was very sad for the Phantom, I guess. We had a pretty good battle going on with the Phantom, pretty much neck and neck, and we just overtaken them. Then Simon said to me, geez, the Phantom's rolled. Saw them roll behind us in the revision mirror, and we kept going, and then the race was stopped, and they restarted the race, and then we pretty much won it from start to finish. So it's been a good day for us.
The conditions definitely dropped off from yesterday, but it was still challenging. We were giving it a bit of a go. Unfortunately, we had some water pressure problems every corner in the bottom quarter, and the engine was going in the Guardian, so we had to back off, turn her off, start her up again and get going. So it still made it pretty difficult. We still managed to get past 88 in the rough, and we couldn't quite catch Mancini though, so great result for them.
The water conditions really weren't too bad. We were a little bit undecided on our race weight, how we should start, so we left a little bit extra weight on board, and that was just a godsend for us. And we still pushed hard and had a ding-dong battle with Saracen, but unfortunately, as the race wore on, the conditions got a little bit tougher when the faster boats started to lap us. But anyway, the bigger boats certainly showed up, but we were certainly still there at the finish.
Some of the beautiful sights, sounds and places here up in Coffs Harbour and the beautiful Coffs Coast. Big thank you to Destination New South Wales and the Coffs City Council, along with a couple of other fabulous sponsors here this weekend, the Coffs Harbour International Marina and also the Coffs Yacht Club doing a fantastic job for us. This is round number 3 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships for High Tech Oils, and this is race number 2, and the flag drops and the you-know-what stops. We are racing. Unfortunately, we are lacking the Phantom boat in the Supercat Outboard category. The rollover couldn't get the guys back on the water. They did work on the boat. They tried to get it back out there. There was no big damage, but couldn't quite make it. On board now, Nicholson and McGrath, the 222 Newcastle machine, as they fire away out into the ocean swell for the first time in this second race here at round number 3. Mega Fuels on the outside. Brendan and Chris Fryer, they're having a red hot dip this time around as we get the boats turned in. They run wide. They lose a lot of ground there. You can see that. They need to. They've obviously got boats on their inside as well that they need to be wary of. But Maritimo runs in pin to pin, and you can see it is absolutely like chaos now as they come up through turn number 1 here in race number 2. Rooster tails everywhere. The clouds starting to come over. Visibility just dropping away that tad now as we go along. 222, Nicholson and McGrath, the Newcastle sponsorship, emblazoned down the side of this beautiful Maritimo hull now, and they are taking some big hits as they leap off the top of some of these big ocean swells here at mighty Coffs Harbour. CEX Group is the fabulous sponsor that is the naming rights sponsor here this weekend, and all these guys doing an awesome job and putting on an amazing display. We've got a massive crowd here this weekend, and absolutely, as you can see, beautiful conditions. Maritimo 12, they look like they're getting it done again here into turn number 2 for the first lap, and Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick, well, they know this position pretty well. They've had a tough lead up into this round number 3. They haven't had it all their own way. They've really had to work hard on this boat. Some other guys that have been working on hard on their boat is Darren Nicholson and Peter McGrath with the Newcastle 222 as they drop outside the wash of the Maritimo now. They just haven't quite got the top end that they require at the moment to try and get this Maritimo, but at round number 1, they were nowhere near these guys. Round number 2, they're a bit closer. Now round number 3, they're putting more pressure on. By the end of this series, I think the 222 is certainly going to be a boat to keep a very, very close eye on as Nicholson and McGrath just slowly chip away and develop this boat. Out in front now, Maritimo, we go on board. Those guys are doing it nicely. Here's a good little battle, and we've got a little bit of damage there on the front of the Saracen as well. Taken a little bit of bark off, as you can see, just under the number 22. 88 goes through. This is the problem that Saracen have been having. This port turn at the bottom end of the course, and I spoke to the boys in between races. They've got some extra fins added to the bottom of the boat at the moment that they've used to try and choke up a little bit more air and try and get the boat to turn better. What it's done is it's actually creating an air void. The water is picked up through the gearboxes on these engines, and now one of the engines is actually sucking air up instead of water and going into limp mode. Let's go on to the High-Tech Oils replay now with the Mega Fuels and the Maritimo. This was really interesting. Don't forget that there's a couple of boats out of shot to the left of your screen, so the Mega Fuels having to leave room for those other boats on their inside, but you can see the Maritimo runs a tight line, and there you go, you can see the 222 dropping into the Maritimo's wash there as well. So a lot of ground to be made up, particularly on this very technical course here at Coffs Harbour. Really tight corners, and you've got to run on the pins. You don't want to be travelling further than you have to. Mega Fuels now, they fire down the back chute. They have got a little bit of a gap now on the Team Australia too, with Carl Wall and Brett Lerman as we go on board with those guys. And you can see Lerman working the wheel very, very hard. He's just trying to flick the boat off the tops of these swells and try and fly the boat nice and level. He's doing a great job at the moment. And of course, his throttle man doing it for Lockie, Mr. Carl Wall. Absolute consummate professional, but these guys at the moment are holding them off, and it is the young guns, Brendan and Chris Fryer. They hail from Mackay in Queensland, and they've been running in this series now for many, many years, and very experienced campaigners. You can see this is an enthralling battle now because the Saracen boat, with these issues with this water pressure, and I'm just having a look. If you had a really close look, you can see the telltales on the engine, and on the port engine, the left engine, the telltale just actually stopped squirting water there for a moment, and that is a result of that air pocket coming up through, and that's why that engine's going to limp mode. These guys will be extremely frustrated. They've probably got the faster boat in these conditions at the moment, but they just haven't got the equipment under them at the moment to try and get the job done on the father and son combination in the 88 power zone of Michael and Griffith Al. Bottom turn now, and Maritimo 12 just accelerating hard. You can see Steve Jellick, he trims the drives up out of the water to try and break the propellers free. It's such a tight corner that acceleration is what it's all about out of these corners. So trim the drives up, get them to accelerate. You can see again with the Team Australia 2, Carl Wall doing the same thing. Rooster tail comes up on the boat, and then as the boat speed matches the propeller speed, the rooster tail starts to drop away on the boat. So that's what the acceleration is all about there. You can see another wash, so Team Navy here, but I'm just looking across to their side, and they're actually in the wash of another boat. Not quite sure who it is at the moment. May actually be Team Australia. You actually saw the wash disappear in the other boat, which indicates they've had a big fly. So Brendan and Chris Fryer now, as you can see them taking some big hits there. This boat is really taking some punishment out here this weekend, and they're doing a fantastic job holding off that Team Australia boat at the moment. These guys just going on their merry way now. They had an absolutely treacherous round number 2 at Bowen. Now here at round number 3 in Coffs Harbour, it's all turned around from new engine on the boat, a little bit of a band-aid on the rear left-hand corner there, but the Mancini Cosmetics Racing, Brent Price and Simon Isherwood. So Brent there on your right of screen, and you can see he is working very hard on the wheel of that boat. This boat's just had a new power steering system fitted to it with slightly different geometry, and it has taken Brent, I've been talking to him about it in the pits and quite a bit lately, that he has taken a fair while to try and get his head around the new feel of the steering in this boat. But I spoke to him today, and he's much happier with the boat. He's settled into that steering now, and he's really starting to love it and enjoy his racing. Isherwood, well, almost looks like he's asleep at the throttles there. He's just getting it done very beautifully indeed, like the absolute professional that he is. He has raced Class 1, he's raced internationally, and very good operator is Simon Isherwood there in the Mancini Cosmetics. Down through the bottom turn now, Mega Fuels, Infant's Friend, the baby's food sponsors coming on board there for the boys as well, Brendan and Chris Fryer. So a big thank you to Infant's Friend. We always love the good sponsors when they come on board the offshore superboats, and don't they get great exposure on these wonderful boats at these wonderful venues like beautiful Coffs Harbour here, and of course our major sponsor, the CEX Group, and of course High Tech Oils for the series as well. Plenty going on out on the course at the moment as Maritimo starts to round up some of the smaller boats. This is the really intriguing battle of this race at the moment. It's the 88 power zone with Michael and Griffith Thal, with the father-son combination there, and then right in behind them is the Saracen. What's going on here? Brett Lerman and Carl Wall, and it looks like Carl doing something with the throttle. Just looking at his dashes there, they've got one engine out, the port engine. I can see no RPM on the Motec dash for the port engine, and you can see the starboard one. You can see the RPM going up and down, and you see nothing on that left-hand screen. They have dropped an engine in Team Australia too, and I'd have to say that is the engine that actually caught fire at round number 2. Let's hope it's nothing to do with that, but that is really disappointing for the guys. They worked so hard to get this boat back out onto the water after that big fire, and it looks as though maybe a little gremlin has just snuck in there to ruin their day for them. This is this enthralling battle that's going on. It's become so interesting because we've got the little, oh look at this, getting very tight now, the 222 down the outside. So let's just have a look at this as it folds out down into the bottom turn, 3 wide. That's how we like our offshore racing. We're going to go to a short break and we'll be back at Coffs real soon. Welcome back to the show, and this is round number 3 of the High Tech Oils Australian Offshore Superboat Championships, and we're tracking at the moment with the 88 Power Zone. Michael and Griffith Allen, they have a big fly there. That's what offshore powerboat racing's all about. We love it as they come down the front chute and head out into the seaway now in this little 25-foot shifty catamaran. We also noticed in the back of shot earlier on that the Team Australia 2 boat limping back home with that dead engine, so that is absolutely disappointing for those guys, but I'm sure they'll be back at round number 4, bigger and better than ever. Maritimo 12 now. Race leader is Tom Barry-Cotter and Stevie Jellick, and they are doing a very nice job indeed. They just need to keep this show together now, not do anything silly, and they can put some big points in the bag for Team Maritimo Australia. This team does not like to be beaten. It is not part of how they operate, and they are out in front. And I tell you what, if they're not out in front, you know, their job's just maybe in jeopardy. Here we go as we jump and leap. off these beautiful swells here at Coffs Harbour. Beautiful day here and a massive crowd here watching as well on the mighty Coffs coast as we see the Mancini Cosmetics there just being overhauled by the Mega Fuels Brendan and Chris Fryer. So that's your race leader in the Supercat Outboard category, the beautiful pink Duck Wright machine with Brent Price and Simon Ishwood, and now we're on board and you see how close. And I'll tell you what, if you didn't get here this year, folks, try and get down to Coffs Harbour for next year's race, because the viewing from that point that the Team Navy Mega Fuels boat just went past is absolute premium offshore powerboat viewing anywhere in the world. Make no mistake about that. It is absolutely fabulous. As we head up into the top turn, the boat is taking some huge hits. Team Australia too, boat number 8, Wall and Lerman. Second time that these guys have had to limp home in 2 rounds, which is unfortunate for them, but it's all about reliability as well. Maritimo proving that they are the absolute epitome of reliability and preparation at the moment. The beautiful 12 boat go back on board now. Let's have a look at this big fly from Mickey and Griffith Al. Boat just kicks its nose up and goes over onto that port engine. That's really hard on the gearboxes when they land like that, but they've kept it together and that boat is absolutely immaculately prepared by Mr. Griff Ethel himself and doing a fantastic job. Maritimo 12, now they head back out into this ocean swell, and I tell you what, isn't that a sight to behold, ladies and gentlemen? If that doesn't get the hair standing up on the back of your neck, go and see your doctor, because fair dinkum, I reckon there might be something wrong with you. Mancini Cosmetics as they head down back into the harbour, and you can see Brent Price really having to wrap some opposite lock onto this boat, and it's interesting because they've actually widened this boat and they've moved the cockpit back, as we heard the description from Simon Isherwood a little bit earlier on. I wonder whether the boat's sliding a lot in these corners. It certainly looks like it is, doesn't it? You can see Brent just really working the wheel hard and turning right more than he's actually turning left, so that suggests to me that the boat's just in a big power slide there, and I don't think Simon Isherwood giving him any respite at all on the throttles, as he just keeps the hammers hard down and working overtime. He certainly doesn't want to be beaten here today. They had a treacherous round number 2 and they're making it up for it here today in Coffs Harbour. 222, the Newcastle sponsored machine, fires up the front straight away, we'll call it, and they head back out the seaway. New livery on this boat, doesn't it look absolutely spectacular? Big Darren Nicholson. He is the mayor of Lake Macquarie up there, and that leads us into a beautiful little segue because round number 4 is on Lake Macquarie. So he'll be on some home territory up there and he's very excited about that. We go back now with the Mega Fuels and the Infant's Friend machine as they fire up through the seaway now, and just looking on board as these guys are really taking hits of this boat. As I mentioned earlier on, this is one of the older boats in the field, but it's also one of the shortest boats in this Supercat Extreme category. These boats running the carburetted big block 750 horsepower engines, one per side, and super quick. Boats probably capable in smooth conditions of around about 130 to 140 miles an hour, so really up close to that 200 kilometre an hour mark. So super quick boats, and I'm sorry that we talk in miles an hour in boats. I have to convert it for you back to kilometres, so, and I'm getting old. Team 88 now just go through, doing a great job. Michael and Griffith Al, they have been locked in this really enthralling battle with Team Saracen, but they've actually made a little bit of a break now on Matt Kelly and Anthony DeFina in the Saracen machine. Saracen have been having those water pressure issues on the exit of this particular corner that they're coming out of now, and it looks as though Michael and Griff just absolutely being able to capitalise on that issue that the Saracen team is having at the moment, and they fire back out into the seaway. Gotta say, that boat is just a picture of reliability. It's an absolute credit to Griff and his team that prepare this boat. It's always super reliable and it's always super quick. Conditions probably not suiting it here today perfectly, but they're doing a great job and they're running in podium position at the moment. Mancini comes down into the bottom turn, getting it done nicely, and now the Mega Fuels, we go on board. So the young guns, Brendan and Chris Fryer, they come down into this port turn at the bottom end of this beautiful Coffs Harbour course, and as this race time starts to wear down, boats are starting to work. They'll be listening for noises and all sorts of things now as this race wears on, and it looks to me I'm just wondering whether they may have a little bit of an issue here, because that boat looks like it may have slowed down. Look, yep, the belts are coming off. Brendan and Chris Fryer got a problem here. I'm not sure what it is, but there's certainly some discussion being held inside the boat, and you can see the jetty there here at Coffs Harbour. They have peeled off the course and they are heading back into the pits, and we're hearing from our observers that there may be some hull damage to this boat. We've got some spotters out on the course and they said they can see some damage, so that's devastating for those guys. We've seen the boat copping a hiding, and maybe it's had a bit of a failure there in terms of the hull. Mancini, no such problems for this team as they battle on and go on their merry way. Great footage here from beautiful Coffs Harbour on the Coffs coast, and the Mancini boys, very, very big smiles in the cockpit at the moment, but again, they'll be listening to every little noise, every little vibration. These little 2.5 litre Mercuries, they run up to around about 8,200 RPM. They're a 2.5 litre fuel injected two-stroke engine, and of course at 8,200 RPM when they come out of the water, they're zinging up to 9, 10, 11,000 RPM. Really hard on the gear, really hard on the gear boxes as well. But the 29 machine, prepared by Race Marine out of Melbourne in Victoria, doing a beautiful job and out in front. On board now, Tom Barry Cotter and Stephen Jellick, the flying Kiwi on the throttles there, doing a beautiful job. Both these boys operate out of Queensland in Australia, and they are just firing away very, very nicely. All looks very, very relaxed, doesn't it? Just throttling the boat. Stevie Jellick is absolutely an incredibly experienced boat racer. Cut his teeth in small boats, small type ski racing boats, and also circuit type boats, little 17 and 18 footers, and just worked his way up through the ranks, and is now one of the best throttle men this country's ever produced, and we're claiming him even though he's a Kiwi. We'll have you, Steve, you can stay, you're all right. As they come down into the bottom turn, and a nice fly off the back of a swell there as well. That'd keep Jellick a little bit busy on the throttles as the propellers come clear of the water. Maritimo 12 tipping hard down into the port turn as race time starts to wind down now. They're not seeing too many threats coming from the 222 at the moment. They need to be on their game, but they swing through the final turn. Checkered flag is produced, and Maritimo Australia, Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick, big thumbs up, 2 from 2 for Maritimo 12, and unfortunately Maritimo 11 with Andrew Ross Welton could not get started in this particular race. Disappointing for those guys. Checkered flag now for another couple of happy campers here, Darren Nicholson and Peter Muddy McGrath in the Newcastle 222, and they will be heading off down to Lake Macquarie now to get the boat prepared, ready for round number 4, which will be in home territory there at Lake Macquarie. Coming down through 88 offshore, and this has been a great run there, the power zone. Michael and Griff Athal in the little 25 shifty catamaran with a 2.5 litre Mercs. That's a second place for them, and we come through and a lap up. That's why they're coming through. Right behind the 88 power zone is the Mancini Cosmetics Racing, Simon Isherwood and Brent Price doing an absolutely beautiful job, and a little fly across the line. So let's recap the results. Maritimo Australia taking the win back to the 222, then third Mega Fuels, unfortunately 3 laps down after that issue. In the Supercat Outboard for High Tech Oils, Mancini Racing takes the win, 88 power zone back to Saracen, and a DNS for the Phantom.
Mate, that was absolutely fantastic. You couldn't back off at all. Muddy and Darren were on our heels the whole time, so there was no easing off out of it, so you just had to keep the guns down and just hopefully everything sort of finishes.
I think every time we go out we're actually learning quite a bit about the boat, balance-wise, towards the end it was lock the throttle down, got the trim right, ride it out. You had the odd one that made you squeal a little bit, but yeah, more and more we learn the boat, and the more and more we trust what we can do with it, you can see them starting to come back to us a little bit.
Yeah, not sure, mate. Had the start we wanted, and going good the whole race. And we see in Australia had a few gremlins there about halfway through, so we thought, right, I'll just keep doing what we're doing. And then, about 3 minutes before the finish of the race, felt as though we were dragging something. The boat didn't feel right. Still had good power, but we made the call to that we probably had hull damage. As you can see behind us, we did, and we've quickly ripped into the pits and then pulled it out on the train, and lucky we did.
We got the water that we've been asking for or craving. Rough water on pole position, P1. Race 1, obviously, we were able to get away with the win. We were in a fantastic tussle with the Phantom guys, and unfortunate for them, they've had a bit of a rollover, so thank goodness everyone's right there, the boat's right. And with the race 2, we just controlled it right from the start, and still went around at a nice pace, but we very much managed it to make sure that we finished the race and brought home another win.
A fantastic weekend. It's been a really good weekend of true offshore racing. Coffs Harbour's thrown up some unreal conditions for us. A bit wild and fast, but we got through and we're up right at the end and nothing's broken, so we're happy.
We had a water pressure problem on that bottom turn in race 1. We came back, we changed engine height, a few little modifications here and there, but still no good. It was just, it didn't help us at all. So not much we could do. Bottom turn, we had to turn the engines off, restart them again, clear the codes, start again. So just put us too far behind.
So that wraps up round number 3. Point standings at the end of this one. Maritimo Australia on top of the table, back to the 222 Mega Fuels Maritimo, and Team Australia 2 heading out there in 5th spot at the moment. And for High Tech Oils in the Supercat Outboard category, Mancini Racing goes back to the top of the table. Then it's back to the Team 88 Power Zone Phantom, Saracen and the SUV Simrad. And looking at the overall points in the Oz 1 Championship, Maritimo Australia is the leader there. Back to the 222 Offshore, Mega Bulk Fuels Mancini, Team Australia 88, Maritimo Racing and the Phantom. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we certainly hope you've enjoyed round number 3 here from mighty Coffs Harbour. A big thank you to the CEX Group, Destination New South Wales, and the Coffs City Council as well. Certainly hope you've enjoyed the racing from round number 3 here at Coffs Harbour. We'll see you next time at Lake Macquarie.